kids can work anything.
Without instructions.
Hello, Kevin.
Okay, my watch is showing 5:15. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. May I have a roll call, please, Janelle?
Mayor Kupta,
Here.
Ms. Dara,
Here.
Mr. Hopkins.
Here.
Mr. Kozar,
Here.
Mr. Westbrooks.
Here.
All right, this public hearing today is a request, about a request for a conditional use permit for a nursing home and a proposal for preliminary site plan approval at 9730 Valley View. Do we have anyone here to address us on this public hearing? Well, let's give them a couple of minutes and just wait in case somebody shows up late. I was late once.
You're looking for members of the community, not the applicant, correct?
I'm giving them just a couple of minutes just in case.
Just on a Google Maps story. See, like when I'm on something like this, how do I get it to do like you do that radio show? Okay, let's just pick the one that's there.
I kind of hold my finger and it drops it.
Oh,
Unless it's
From there,
I imagine it's probably pretty
touch the side.
I would think so.
Tell you what the address is, and it'll show you.
gotta put that
Go
in
back
there.
to the map. Which one are we reading? Is this Google Maps or just?
Oh, I think it was fake. They don't know how to get out of there. It is maps.
Okay, so that's the regular, that's like the map, because there's a Google Maps too.
Okay, I don't think I have that when I got Google.
Okay. There's a separate app you can try to download.
All right. Okay, thank you.
One or the other.
I was like, yours is bigger though. It's just, seems like more on it. I'm surprised that it was so down here, you know, because it always shows up.
They're building all over.
Not anymore. They turned it into a clinic. Yeah.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Okay, we're waiting for people to show up for the public hearing, on 9730 Valley View. No? No. Okay.
Is that capital time?
No.
No. No, this public hearing had started early, and there's no one here so far, so we're giving them a few minutes.
Okay.
You look like a concerned citizen when you came.
Always.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I'll give you guys that.
Thanks, Tom.
Wow, good job, Tom. Holy mackerel.
Pardon me?
Good job.
Oh, thank you. I gotta thank Alan more than anything.
Well, you
He's a
certainly,
good asset for me.
think
You
that
certainly
is-
didn't
Brooke got
just jot it
accepted
down
at,
on a
Golden
piece of
Grades
paper.
No,
High
it
Yeah.
took us a few
She
months.
got accepted
I'll
at
say.
Golden Grades.
in the
Very
program.
nice.
So,
She's ready to work.
What's that?
So she's ready to work.
Start next year.
It's grueling.
The guy is so nice that, in that department, that architect over there, he's so nice, he's an Italian guy. He was so nice, though, he did everything, he did everything, and stuff. And then he sent a letter out and accepted the original program, so.
Do I have motion to close public hearing? Okay, there's a motion. Yes?
Second.
No, you
Oh,
gave the motion.
Okay, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, we have motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed, and we won't convene the planning commission meeting for a few minutes in case anybody's running late.
She's in the other room, wait, she doesn't have her recording.
I guess we're not called to order. There she comes. Sorry about that.
Mayor Kota,
Here.
Ms. Zara,
Here?
Mr. Hopkins,
Here.
Mr. Kozak,
Here.
Mr. Westbrook.
Here.
All right, we have one set of minutes to go over there. The minutes from the August 18, 2014 Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Are there corrections?
Mr. Kozak was absent for this meeting as well.
Okay.
Have a motion to approve the minutes from the August 18th, 2014 minutes.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Frank abstained. Okay, now we're gonna get right into the request for conditional use permit for the nursing home and proposal for preliminary site plan. 9730 Valley View. Now is the time.
Good evening.
Evening.
Mark Cohen, President of North Coast Architects.
So you put it in now. I thought you were
Right.
doing it again.
Corporate Director of Operations for Progressive College. You guys have
Plug into Janelle, we'll make sure we get everything right. Thank you.
There we go.
All right, Brian, do you have anything on this?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, you do.
I have a report dated December 8th, and it's regarding the conditional zoning certificate request. And I also have a separate report, same date, and that is for the preliminary site plan review. Mr. Mayor, would you like me to summarize or read the reports in their entirety?
Well, do we have copies for you fellows? Do you have copies?
I have received.
All right, well then summarize. Brian.
Okay, thank you. The applicant is requesting a conditional zoning certificate to allow a nursing home facility on the subject property of 98 private suites, and the site's a little over 7 acres. The property's zoned business office, and long-term care facilities, including nursing homes, are conditionally permitted. Planning Commission held their public hearing this evening and did not receive any comments for or against the request. And my report can really be summarized into two issues. From the perspective of the use, I think the use is appropriate for the property. It makes some sense from stepping down and eventually going into the industrial down the road. But the comments I had really centered on traffic in general in the neighboring area around the subject property, given some of the other developments in the area. I expressed an interest in the planning commission taking a look at, or having his traffic engineer take a look at the curb openings along Valley View, and trying to coordinate this development with maybe others proposed in the area, and suggested one potential opportunity to achieve the sort of horseshoe effect that's shown on the site plan, to achieve that, but limit curb openings. A suggestion was to take a look at the lining up the driveway entrance for this development with park, coming into the property and then exiting out potentially. Again, not mandating it, but taking a look at exiting out the current property owner's retail plaza immediately adjacent to this site. That could be something that could be examined, and certainly talk to the property owner about. If not, certainly lining up the driveway with park would be something that would be desired to at least examine. And then the other issue, if that is something the planning commission ultimately does not look at favorably, then the only comment I had really regarding the conditional zoning certificate, and it's really a site plan issue as well, is taking a look at adding some more screening, either vegetative or man-made screening at the ends of the drive aisles in that northerly, or that, I guess that would be the, what direction is that? That'd be your south?
The north and south.
North and south ends, yeah. Your northerly and southerly ends of your parking lot to protect against light intrusion to the neighboring property owners. So with that said, I do think the conditional use is an acceptable use of the property. Just taking a look at some of these performance issues, in particular the traffic, and then if not, certainly look at screening some of that light intrusion of the adjacent property owners.
All right, Dennis?
The proposed building is in the town center area, and the design provides many of the design features and materials suggested in the town center portion of the code. The exterior walls are brick or lap siding, the roof is sloped with asphalt shingles, and there are prominent columns at the entry and several gables around the exterior. The top sashes of the windows are multi-paned, and there are decorative lintels over the windows in the brick portions of the building.
All right. How about you, Don?
Once we get the construction plans, it would just be reviewed for code requirements at that time.
Okay. They're gonna be looking to make sure a fire truck can get in. I have it upside down, but I was just looking through the elevations. All right. Do you have any questions, comments? Anybody on the commission?
We'll hear what they have to say.
Brian's comments. All right. Do you have-
Most definitely.
All right.
Is everybody familiar with the plan, and do you want an overview of the entire concept, or do you just want me to address the comments that were made already?
Is this basically what was being worked on once before, or is it totally different?
Well, the land configuration is a little different from what was previously submitted when we were doing the
Yes, that I
schematic.
see,
But, and this is just a quick overview, and this will kind of come back and play when we talk about some of the comments that were previously made. What you see highlighted in the yellow was what we were in for the land area for the schematic, and what you see in the green is what we're here for this evening for the land.
Okay.
As far as the building, it obviously the configuration has changed based on the new
Right.
land area, but all the features, the size of the building is basically the same square footage wise, 98 private suites, so none of that has changed. So really based on that, I could be happy to address some of the issues that came up. Just because I'm looking looks so much nicer in color.
There you go.
So, when we were before the planning commission last, and the comment came up about the possibility of trying to line up with Park Avenue. Seemed like that had some good feasibility to it based on the original property. And you can see there was about a 20-foot offset between the road and the center line of where Park Avenue was. And if that would have been the same configuration, we surely would have pushed that. But what we found was with the new plan, you can see right here is the center of Parkview.
Right.
The distance is over 200 feet from the center line of the northern and about 165 feet from the center line over. And trying to align it and maintain the two entrances didn't really seem to work. The problem with coming in with a single entrance down the center and horseshoeing around, it creates a difficulty in the flow of the traffic within the property. Right now, what works out nicely is you have a separation of where your visitors park across the front and where staff comes by and service trucks come by and the trash trucks to get down to the service area here, where they're not conflicting vehicularly, where if you came down with only one entrance in here, you'd have just traffic for all the different uses conflicting with each other. Plus you'd have people coming in and then kind of having to do this loop around the top to kind of get back on the correct side of the drive-through for dropping off. So we really felt that this worked better, you know, for the use on the property, and the fact that we had greater separation from the entrances to Park Avenue, that the concerns that we had originally with just a 20-foot separation was not the same.
Now, would the emergency vehicles be using that same entrance right there that you're pointing at? Where
So they have the ability.
everybody comes in, visitors go one way and the employees go the other, and where would the emergency?
Well, they could come through either this way
Yeah.
or this way, but this here is the back area. And if they needed to be undercover, then we do have the porte cochere at the front that has a covered area to it. But the service, you know, pretty much the truck would come in and back in here and then pull out and loop around and come out here and head down.
Right, and all that'll be wide enough for the ambulances and for the fire trucks in case they needed to get over into that section of the building, correct?
Well, they have the ability of coming in this direction or this direction. These are all
Okay.
22-foot wide driveways, so
All right.
it's 2 lanes, you know, all the way around. It's
Mhm.
not just 1 lane.
Okay.
Well, thanks for explaining that, because that does put a little different view on it from what we had before.
Definitely.
The other thing I just want to add with the land that we're going to purchase, we don't have access into through here because this is not the land that we own.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's that piece there.
Where you have the retention base.
It's right above it. This piece of land here goes off the page and connects up with the strip
Right.
center. A different ownership, different development.
All right.
If I may, to continue with what was said is, we understand the concern with lights from the traffic coming through here, and this is the Welsh property, so we'd have no problem with adding additional landscaping there to block that. This piece here, known as the loop property, is actually a vacant piece of property now, so there is no longer a house there. We don't know that there's the necessity, but if it was something that the planning commission and city wished, then yes, we could add more landscaping there, but without there being a house there now, it doesn't really serve the same purpose as it would for reinforcing the landscaping for the buffer at that point.
I saw in here that there was guardrail, and Brian had a problem with, and I have a problem with guardrail. And some other kind of fencing. We have very nice fencing going on throughout the city.
That area that we're talking about basically wraps around here.
Okay.
Yeah, we're happy to explore other issues, but.
Okay,
but
I see it's at the back. I
It's
thought
all-
it was at the north end.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's only along here, so we have the railroad tracks running along here. The guardrail really provides the best from a safety standpoint. And we do, because of the large grade variation dropping down across here, a lot of it is made up in this area here. We think the guardrail provides a more secure from a safety standpoint, if it's icy versus a fence. We'd also hate to put a fence across here and block the, you know, the view. I know it's through the parking lot, but when we have this nice green area, a fence would kind of block that. So considering that it's along the back of the railroad tracks, we'd ask, you know, the city to consider allowing the use of the guardrail, but
Well, now that you explain that, it makes a little more sense. And again, to the gradient there, how does it slope front to back?
so there's a pretty good grade across the property from this being the high point, kind of sloping down. That's why stormwater is at this point, it is the lowest point of the property. The trick with this type of facility is this whole building has to be at one level, being that it's a nursing home. So there is no grade change or elevation change within the building itself. So there's definitely some grade that drops off and drops down to allow us to get to the point. But there is a fair amount of grade that drops off here to tie into what's existing around the
Well,
property.
I don't see anybody seeing that from the road.
Yeah, it's pretty far back.
All right. Anybody else questions, comments?
I years ago, I mean, it kind of goes back years ago, I mean, nobody wants to say this, but one time in a nursing home that a patient had Alzheimer's and kind of escaped out with a coat and hat and everything in the evening and got lost out in Westlake, and it was wintertime and everything, and it took like almost a whole day to find her. So, you know, when I'm listening to this, and, you know, when you, like you talk about the backside there, the guardrails and everything, you know, I mean, it's still, nobody wants to say it, but things like that do happen, you know, in facilities, you know. She just kind of went out with the elevator with visitors, and nobody knows.
Our buildings are secure at all times. From the inside, you have to have a code to get out, you have to have a code to get in the front door. And the only exit doors that would be able to follow people out would be through the employee entrance. If a resident tried to get through the doors internally in the building to the employee access only areas, they would be noticed immediately. Because you have to have a
Well,
code to do that.
I'm just saying that because of the guard railing and the railroad tracks, I just wanted to throw that out there.
The front door is the only way they'd be able to follow somebody out, and we have a receptionist during the visitor hours to make sure that that doesn't happen.
The other thing I looked at, if you take a look at the design of the building, and that's a new model of all the avenues, this and the avenue that's doing it. The building, this one actually has 2 courtyards, and we have
Right.
2 gazebos and activity area and grass, so that, you know, people want activities that actually be outside, but actually enclosed.
Inside.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of-
All right.
So we try to design, I mean, still can't get 100%.
That's nice.
Nothing, everything's
That's
really
nice.
basically done.
Kevin?
Do you know the driveway for across the street, proposed facility over there on the housing corner where that's gonna line up
I think
at?
you're talking about something that's occurring down here, and I'm not exactly sure if that overlaps into the loop property. If I recall, I thought it was somewhere down here. That was a while ago since that last
That
meeting.
was a while ago, and they were gonna be on par.
There was talk about them trying to eliminate one if they could, because I think they had two.
Was there
on
nothing
Park.
over on Valley View? Was that what we had approved, or was it? I can't remember.
Well, there were gonna be one on Valley View, one on Park, or, you know,
Yeah.
to locate them. And this one's coming on Valley View with a different schematic, so to speak, of how it's gonna be laid out. And
Right.
the other one,
Well, I was looking for where their driveway, yeah, how it lined up with this one. Was it
well, you know,
just offset from the,
one of the things we talked about before, and maybe we ought to talk about now, is what kind of traffic do you think they'll generate? I mean, you get a lot of visitors come to these homes. It seems to me, I remember in past discussions, that there usually isn't a lot of visitors, and anytime there is a lot of visitors, it could be on a weekend or a holiday or that kind of thing, or there wouldn't be other traffic. Is that still the case?
that's the way it usually works. It'd be nice if everybody had visitors, but more than half the residents never actually ever get a visitor. They either have no one remaining to visit, or who knows what
what the reasons are. We have some residents who will get a visitor every day, but they generally visit during the daytime before dusk if they can, as their friends are generally older and don't prefer to drive at night. And we have, of course, the shift changes that happen. And other than that, it's a slow trickle of traffic. It's not like a whole bunch of people at once, other than shift change time. And that's spread out over a 30-minute period. So
And some people come like in between the meals, Don, and then sometimes some like, kids will come and either sit with their parents while they eat, or their grandparents, or even feed them, help out, and if they're a feeder, they feed them. So a lot of different
kids
things.
are a lot of times in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah, right.
So,
Kids like me.
they generally are in early, but they're generally in a little earlier in the evening. This time of year, obviously, it gets dark earlier, but generally visiting hours are done about 8 o'clock at night. A few stragglers out till 9. And most of them don't get in about 10 in the morning.
And employees, you're talking about 100 full-time employees divided over 3 shifts.
3 shifts, 30-minute shifts. Bob?
No, I think, to Brian's questions about the traffic and that, I think that's a good question. I think all the questions have been good, so I would just like clarification on that.
Well, if they have a minimum amount of visitors, then there's not going to be a lot of traffic even with drivers. All right, and when will they be there? Will they be there during rush hour where people might be using, well, Valley View can get backed up quite a bit.
Right, and that's coming from Highland.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, that's no matter which way you look at it. Highland's got a lot of traffic, and it's always gonna be traffic there regardless of what you look at.
Maybe it's better to have 2 actual entrance exits, so you have 2 chances to get out of there. in
There
case
is,
one
right
falls.
there.
Yeah, you're right, and if there is, right, something here, if they see that there's something, but they have the ability to come up here.
Get to it.
And make that left turn, if there is traffic.
The same thing from the safety factor, it's always nice to line our roads up across of each other, but to have a single entrance in there is never as good as having twin entrances. If that exit gets blocked, then you're done, you can't get back in.
And just circulation on the site, and that one just makes it more iffy, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kevin? Read.
I like the concept that I see right in front of me, and the 2 entrances and exits are just totally fine with me.
It's going to be a very unusual facility with the courtyards in it, and also the treatment they give rooms in the hallways. Do you still do that? Or you make them like individual?
So the resident rooms, I actually probably can see a little better on here. Well, actually, we try to do so that the corridors are, obviously they're long, but there's lots of ins and outs. And when we get to certain areas, we have different ceiling heights. We use different materials, whether it's acoustical in some and drywall in others. You get to these areas where you see these big X's. These are these clear story elements that we have, and those are seating areas within. So we try to break up the hallways by giving different treatments of flooring materials, ceiling materials, different heights, creating lots of lounge spaces as you go around, so that there's lots of places for the residents to interact in smaller communities, outside of the rooms, in some smaller lounges, and of course the bigger ones at the the main avenue, in what we refer to as the avenue portion of the project, which is this area here, where all the other uses are.
When you compare that with a lot of facilities where you have this almost institutionalized long hallway, like in a hospital, you've done away with that by trying to make it more and more homey.
Most definitely.
Now, we move from an institutional focus to residential focus, where again, it's not semi-private shared bathroom, it's a private room, private showers, high ceilings, granite in the room, flat screen TVs, electric beds, nice.
So we got a good place to go when we get
Yeah, I
there,
mean,
right?
in fact.
We're all gonna go.
We have to take 2 people, not get paid for them, have 24/7 staff on them, and then wait for the mercies of the Ohio Department of Health to come survey us, which could take anywhere from 30 to 90 days, depending on their graces. So we have many volunteers who want to come in, because they're like in a hotel style.
Yeah, my saying is it's a hotel with healthcare, because the hallways look like hotel hallways, whereas they zigzag in and out. You just don't see a flat wall with row doors in it. That's the old way, it's the old way it was done, and that doesn't sell anymore.
But you're talking about like car dining from, China. It's not like everybody has to be the main dining room 12 to 1. You have different seatings. You got what we call a his and hers, like a salon. We have chapels. We have obviously Wi-Fi throughout. That's a standard in every business today. But
You have more than one facility, don't you?
we've done the new model. The first one was the Avenue, we call it, so the Wanso Heights. It's pretty much a copy of this. I mean, it's on 2 floors, but it's a 97-bed facility. We have a brand new one in Medina, which we opened last year, 70-bed on Smith Road, and we're about to complete a 98-bed, which really is almost in Aurora, right next to Aurora Farms. We should start that. We should open that one at the end of March of 2015.
You've been around.
We've been around.
What level of service do you offer?
Skill level of service for those rehab, that type of thing. There will be some long-term people there, there always is, but we probably have about 50% of our residents will be rehab patients. The other 50% probably long-term.
You're gonna have a separation of the rehab patients and then another section that has the long-term care?
Only if we open the dementia unit, Alzheimer's
Right.
unit, which we don't plan on doing initially.
Right.
The building is set up so we can, if this market requires it, we get a lot of requests for it, we can do that, which adds another level of security within the building. But if we don't have to do any Alzheimer's dementia, we don't plan on doing it.
Questions, comments, motions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I could, I just had a couple comments on the site plan issue.
Sure.
I don't know if you're going to be dealing with that at the same time.
Well, unless it's conditional, we would be going on their site plan, all
Okay.
right? So,
I just had a couple comments regarding the off-street parking spaces. What I'm heard tonight is, sounds like they need about 82 spaces. Even if there's a 10% variation, they'd be needed about 90. So some consideration could be to eliminating some of the hard surface on the property. Could even be that front row of 19 spaces along Valley View, and that would really soften the look of the property with less impervious surface, which would take them still over the 90-plus spaces. So just a suggestion. And then I had a comment about the foot candle strength, and I think it's probably a simply, easily topic. The foot candles for the lights, and it's something that can be easily overcome, but some of them exceed, upwards of over a foot candle at property line. So just something to take a look at. But I just wanted to let the
On the
commission know.
parking situation, the day shift has by far the largest amount of staff, the third shift, the least amount of staff. So I think if you were to cut it back to 80 or 90, it might be quite short during visitor hours, during the day shift. Once the office folks go home, the therapy people go home, it would probably be perfectly adequate. But we do have to have the office people and therapy staff there starting at about 7 to 8 in the morning, depending on the department. And we probably would need the places to make that work.
We tried to we kind of learned from the experiences of the other homes that we've done, that 8 or 90 usually just doesn't cut it. Usually in the 1 to 110 range, when we have 98 beds, is what we found really works. And it's unfortunate because, some of the time we'll drive by and it looks like it's empty, there's nothing there, but at other times the lots will be, pretty well full based on that staffing requirement.
And they'll have to come steal spaces here.
Yeah, believe me, we would like to, less if we could.
You mean
I'm
rent?
with you on that. But we'll take a look at it again and see. And the lighting issue that you brought up, we'll reevaluate the photometrics. And as you said, it's just some adjustments. And we do cut off type fixtures, so we're not spilling onto the other properties, but it might be at some highly intense areas within our own that we can look at.
Yeah, it was just where the lights were really close to the property lines where you get the additional spill.
Agreed. We'll happily take a look at that.
All right, so that would be one of the conditions of approval. Anything else? Anybody have any feelings? Frank?
Just a question on procedure. Are we making two separate motions, one for the conditional use? And one
Well,
for the
I was
site
thinking
plan?
of that, but it's only listed here one time. I think it would be best if we made two.
Think so.
Yeah, that way we could go back. So, the first one would be the,
Conditional.
conditional. Right, do I have a motion on the conditional?
So we're,
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next is the preliminary site plan review. Do I have a motion?
Have a motion for approval of the site plan.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let me make this one conditional on the lighting and the landscape. Okay, two conditions, Jenna. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see. All right, next on the agenda is the proposed signage for the mattress firm on the northeast corner of Route 8 and Aurora Road. Hi. Come on down, have a seat.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Richard Stump for Last Sign, 164 Annandale Avenue, Akron, Ohio.
Okay, Brian?
Do you have a card?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, my report dates back to May 11th, and this is, Commission may remember, we had a lot of going back and forth with the property owner regarding signage, and at the last Plan Commission meeting, I believe the Commission accepted the property owner's proposal to essentially just guide the signage for the development simply by the section of the code 117903, rather than the applicants or the owner submitting a unified building signage plan. And as such, then these applications will just be treated on their own merit with regard to the individual tenant space. So each tenant space is allowed 2 square feet of identification signage based on their amount of tenant space that they have. So I don't readily know what this space has in terms of tenant frontage. 62. So they're allowed 124 square feet, and I think their request is for like 90 approximately. So it'd be in compliance. And as far as colors, again, there's no color palette, approved color palette, so the colors would just be based on the applicant's request.
And the mattress firm is white faces. The swoosh that goes on the firm is a yellow.
Which both those, obviously white's acceptable, and yellow has been used in other retail plazas under approved color palettes.
All right, so we're within specs and colors are good. Are there any other questions, comments? Motion.
Make a motion that we approve the mattress firm signage request at the approximate 90 square feet, you know?
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? How about that?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, council. Have a good night.
See you. All All right, next we have proposed 2 wall signs for the First Watch at Macedonia Marketplace. Hi, how you doing? Are you James?
Yes.
Do you have a card?
Yes.
All right, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report goes back to October 12th when I addressed this issue for First Watch some time ago. And again, same thing as previously stated for the last applicant. I believe 81 square feet are being requested at this time. If that's, I asked it to the applicant if that's correct, about 81 square feet. And the tenant frontage is, do you know what the offhand, your tenant frontage?
I think it looks nice, don't you?
No, I think they sent in a letter.
40. So they're allowed 80 square feet, but I think this is a corner unit, so they're allowed additional. So I think the 81 being requested is within the code limits.
All right, how about the colors?
But the signs are going to be, I did see urethane with rounded letters. And they're going to be spotlighted from below. Show the spotlights on the spec sheet.
It's not illuminated itself.
It's not internally.
Questions?
Do you want to pass it down to them so they can see?
Yeah, we got one right in the back. We're good. Bob, do you need? Questions, comments?
Material-wise, is it actually wood or is it just look?
Well, it looks like wood. It's urethane foam. That's very dense. So it's just very waterproof. Made to look like wood.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion? Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next is the proposed signage change for the Country Inn and Suites on Capitol Boulevard. There we are.
Oh, thank you, dear.
You're way ahead of us. Brian?
I'm not.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report dated December 7th. The request is to update signage, assuming based on corporate logo change or corporate design. And so the request is such, and in addition to the existing 2 wall signs, a 3rd wall sign is being proposed. So the north and south building elevations are proposed to receive an approximate 14.92 square foot sign. And then the west building elevation, which is the larger sign, is about roughly 41.32 square feet. Combined, it's less than 80 square feet total. And the applicant's building frontage is about 156 feet. So much more signage is permissible, so it's definitely within the area limitations of the code. Regarding the ground monument sign, the proposed sign is a little over 4 feet by a little over 7 feet, so just under 30 square feet and it's 6.5 feet tall. The code allows a 40 square foot ground sign, so they're within the limitations there. And they're using the existing ground monument base and simply putting the new sign faces in there, which is acceptable.
A new sign cabinet.
New sign cabinet, which is acceptable. And so I believe this request can be approved as submitted.
Questions? Comments?
Just have one concern, I'm not sure even if it doesn't necessarily apply to that, but address it to Brian, I guess the overall Capitol Square sign is pretty.
Yeah, my assumption is that's a non-conforming sign under the current code.
Is there a time or a point when we're changing a large sign like that, that we could?
Let me see how the code reads. I mean, so your code does require maintenance, so one avenue is through your property maintenance code to require maintenance of the signage. And then regarding non-conformities, yeah, I mean, it's,
Top of the middle that I made in my mind, it's the little panels at the bottom represented.
Well, that's the guy.
Right.
I mean, it's
Not
entirely,
necessarily our
it's an enforced.
responsibility of this right now, but it is something that would like to be noted at least that needs to.
It
Yeah.
should actually be one
Correct.
unit
Yeah.
with, if there's blanks, there should be, if there's blank spaces, there should be blanks in there, so it has a consistent shape with a consistent look.
Yeah.
Not that they helter-skelter here or there, whatever. Who knows if one fell off, or who knows what it's supposed to be. I looked at that when I first saw the drawings. You know, I'm doing this for over 30 years, this wasn't quite right.
Yeah,
Well,
certainly
Joe,
this is an improvement.
Follow up. The only thing that I could do is that I can go back to my clients
Yes.
and make a recommendation to them that we have this discussion. And, you know, that should be rectified in some fashion or other. I can't promise it'll be done,
Well, I
but I
can,
can
if
certainly
it,
make
if it's
sure that
conditional,
it's.
Joe, we'll make it a condition
Mhm.
that that be addressed. How about that?
That would be good.
Just on that one particular side.
That's it.
Right.
All right, any other questions, comments?
It isn't on this side.
All right. Do I have a
I'll admit
motion?
things when they're wrong.
Have a motion
To approve
to
the,
accept with conditional approval on the Capitol Square Business Park sign.
We have a motion and a second, just making it clear that it's a conditional approval that that gets addressed.
I'm making a note right now.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, Jeremy, you're all set.
Very good. Thank you very much, and have a happy holiday.
You too.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, or whatever.
All that good stuff. All right, next we have proposed signage for Jimmy John's. Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
sorry.
Well, I know you're not Tom, so you
I am
must
not.
be, you must be, can we have your card? Do you have a card?
I don't.
Okay. That's
Amy
all right.
Noble for Ellis.
Amy Noble. We've had you here before.
Yes. This whole time I was a regular Joe.
All right. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report, December 7th, very basic. This is in the same complex that's been subject to a couple other approvals this evening. The sign is a little less than, or roughly about 38 square feet, and the code allows, based on the 20-foot of tenant frontage, the code allows 40 square feet. So they're within that limitation. And the only thing I had added is that based on the three approvals, then, assuming this is approved, the three approvals would result in about 210 square feet of sign area for this plaza, leaving them with approximately 375 square feet. But the sign, I believe, can be approved as submitted.
Questions, comments? Number 9, it should stay on the sign, Brian?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Number
Mayor?
9?
The number.
Jimmy.
Oh, yeah.
He told me that's specific.
The number 9 is, I think, the best one, yes.
So you got the highlight.
I thought you were saying what number sub shop this is.
No, no.
No.
I told the mayor number 9 on the menu is really good, so.
It's really good. He recommends them very highly, so that's a good thing. When your planner does that. All right, any other questions, comments?
Nope.
All right, motion?
Make a motion to accept Jimmy John's signage as submitted.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is the request for a similar use determination at a hotel in the B1 district at 20 Girl Scout Way. Hi, have a seat. Yeah, Carl, you're ready.
I wonder if she knows.
Mark,
Hey,
okay,
hey,
Mark,
Councilman,
right here.
Charlie. Oh, it's a different, never mind.
Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report dated December 7th. This is for a similar use determination in the Planning and Zoning Code under Section 116702 B17. The language reads, "Uses not listed herein and which are comparable in character to those types listed may be permitted by the Planning Commission." We call that generally a similar use determination, although your code does specifically say that elsewhere. But that's really precisely what's being requested this evening. The property is located at 20 Girl Scout Way, is Zone B1 Convenience Business District. And the Planning Commission, again, does have the authority to make this type of a determination. So when taking a look at this, and we've had one recently, you take a look at the uses listed in the code, and certainly taking a look at the character of the area. The character of the area is very transitional. You have some of the new uses immediately adjacent to the south of this. You have the nursing home facility, and you have the Redwood property going in. And then you have the Girl Scout property immediately adjacent in the opposite direction. So this is an area that's certainly transitioning, and this particular use would make some sense. So taking a look at the code, in your conditionally permitted uses in the B1 district, the Macedonia code does allow for professional, medical, and administrative offices. So you can have office buildings. And taking a look at that, an office building, in my opinion, is very similar in terms of the type of operation or potential impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. In fact, really a hotel might service the neighborhood better because some of these other adjacent uses that are planned or currently in the planning stages would likely be able to utilize the services of a hotel, maybe patrons coming to the facilities. So, in my opinion, given that the professional offices are conditionally permitted to B1, I do think it's reasonable for the Planning Commission to make the determination, except not permit the use, but conditionally permit the use. So it would require, if accepted by the Commission, a conditional zoning certificate, which would carry another level of review procedure by the Commission, which would be a public hearing with a site plan attached and looking at the conditions specific to this use relative to the neighborhood and the potential impacts. So if the Commission agreed, it would be a conditional zoning certificate in their determination of similar uses. With regard to the conceptual site plan, I just noted one thing: the building does exceed the maximum building height for buildings in the B1 district, so that could be something that needs to be looked at as the plan goes further if the Commission makes this determination. Also, the site, for whether or not this means anything, it's encumbered severely by a lot of utility easements. So taking a look at all the setbacks and how that plays in, the building appears to be located in one of the setbacks. So all those are issues, just to be fair, looking at it very conceptually, just have to be examined if the Commission does make this determination and this project moves forward. So with that said, I do think it's reasonable for the Commission to make the determination, but recommend that if it does that it makes it such that it's a conditionally permitted use following the criteria and procedure set forth in Section 113704 of the Planning and Zoning Code, which does require a public hearing similar to what we had this evening for the other conditional zoning certificate.
Dennis?
I spoke with your representative about the design of the building. They're aware of the town center area, the
Yes.
revisions will have to be made to it, so.
Good, good. Being right there in the middle of town, we have very strict building.
They certainly are willing to comply with this.
Okay, well, we want it to look sharp, the buildings that are going around it look nice, so. Any other questions, comments? This is just a getting our feet wet type of thing. We're a long way from rounding third and heading home. But conceptually, we do have that assisted living center right there. If there's a hotel there and an assisted living center right there, it
That's
might
Redwood, right?
benefit both. I know the casino's only 1.5 miles away, so you just might have a whole lot of business from them if you get that up before they build their hotel.
Where's the road going to the high school? Okay, so it's still a way.
It might be useful, if, if we move forward with this thing, is to kind of, maybe Nick or somebody out of the city here could put together some kind of overall plan. It doesn't have to be perfect, but, just boxed out some areas of where road was at, where all these different things are at in this area. We're just looking at my.
If you go
Google
over there,
Maps, just to try and figure out where
Sure.
everything's set up, and maybe he could put together just an exhibit for us.
I don't think a lot of people even realize that there's room there.
Yeah.
But there is, when you go back and look at the homes that they're building now, you look at that area, there's a lot of room there. But it's got a lot of easements.
Yeah, but like with Redwood going in over there too, with, the problems we're having with hotels lately in the community. I mean, is that just gonna be, like those, you have to be a certain age to live over in Redwood.
No.
And
No.
it's not.
But their average age is 52 for 60 units.
Well, I'm just wondering too, because of the way it's all set up here, the way we're looking at it, if it's gonna be an issue as far as, problems, stuff going on. I mean, 'cause you know what I go through because of the, AA, with drugs and alcohol and everything, hotels today and,
This is a Marriott, isn't it?
yeah, it'll be too expensive, I know.
Yeah.
Unless you have expensive prostitutes in the city,
So you have a very more exclusive type of setting than we do on, unfortunately, the
I
other
know.
part of town.
And then we got the school, it's the traffic where the school goes through.
Well, I don't know how much traffic would be there, 2:30.
No, I mean, I'm just talking about the students itself, the kids.
Yeah, there's
Traffic,
school
like
located on
2:30 in the
South End.
afternoon.
Yeah,
It's probably gonna be pretty minimal.
yeah. That's about what time they get out.
Is there any kind of meeting rooms or anything in the hotels?
They're in the very preliminary stages, but generally they do have some type of a small meeting area.
But not like.
Not like a large.
Like not like Twinsburg,
Yeah.
thing that has conferences.
Yeah, normally this developer does not normally do large conference rooms.
How far, what is the height of this and what is the maximum height in this facility? How far are they out?
Maximum height is 35 feet.
3 stories, yeah.
Mhm.
I think this is like
46 or something.
almost 50 feet with the
And 4 stories.
architectural features and kind of.
Do we know what, the North Scout is that, how many stories is that?
Yeah, it's 2 for sure, I don't know if it's 3.
Like Girl Scouts?
2.
Just 2
Yeah.
stories, really?
Of course, now, the hotel that's visibility from 271, which would be 690.
Right, this would be, what they're proposing, would be like a 4-story hotel. 50-foot max, the architectural features.
This is elevation.
This isn't the exact elevation what they're proposing, but a very similar.
Well, that would be a look for general, certainly not Western Reserve.
Right, exactly, it was, right, this would be kind of more like the typical hotel style, but I would match.
Well, typical Marriott style, from what I remember, and I'm not a hotel goer, Marriotts are usually pretty good. And
to, the mayor that, school gets out at 2 something and check, usually check-in time at hotels is 2 and 3. So, just so everybody is aware of that.
Well-
2:15 at high school gets out.
If I was going to a hotel to
2:10.
check in, I would probably be coming from 82 rather than from South Bedford. My thoughts would be, so in other words, that traffic will be coming in this way, the school traffic will be exit.
Yeah, there is a section where you can kind of see there's a small meeting room. Yeah.
But not a massive one where
Right.
you're bringing a couple hundred people.
And they typically have, like, this is a fenced patio. They'll put it in like a really nice, sometimes they'll put in like a fireplace, outdoor fireplace, an outdoor grill, stuff like that. So they're catering to a business class or higher level clientele.
Well, that's good because we're looking for a real sharp building.
And they want that.
What's going to be right next to you is almost like a palace, so
Okay.
I can't tell.
it must be
They're gonna
nice.
have a restaurant here. They're gonna have a grill. Is there gonna be a restaurant in
I don't believe so.
there? I can't see any.
Typically, they don't do a restaurant.
Well, then they'll be walking up front and getting,
I mean, it looks like there's a breakfast room,
Yeah, they
but
have
that's
like a
probably
breakfast room,
complimentary
buffet,
breakfast.
yeah.
Right.
Let's see.
Generally, they don't do a restaurant in hotels.
Just get rid of it.
They like to focus on,
They offer free continental breakfast.
yeah.
yeah, there's the sandwiches, you got sandwiches in front of you there, you got pizza, you got, those drinks. And maybe they'll take a mosey over there, give us a little more business. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, just to be noted, I think with all the new development we have along these 2 areas, I think we certainly need to consider the traffic pattern in the near future, because I think it's gonna be a nightmare. So, I think we need speaking from the business side of it, I think we certainly need a better hotel in this area, because the ones that we have, I can't bring customers in typically to stay at these here, so this would be a great addition.
If I can address that, don't forget, at the end of 2016, which is maybe when this would be a reality, 82 will be 6 lanes. 620 feet of turning lanes. That's good. Yeah. All that's gonna be a pain right now, but once we get through it. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Just make sure we worded this right, Brian, you're suggesting calling it a conditional
Zoning certificate.
conditional zone.
Yeah, we wanna have public input.
Is that your what's your recommendation?
Yeah, the recommendation would be to, if the commission finds it acceptable, to make the similar use determination as a conditionally permitted use, and it would fall in the B1 district as, it'd be under 116702 C10
I thought it was B, okay.
hotels. B17 is your authority to do
Right.
this. It would then go under C10
C10?
hotels.
Hotels.
You're effectively amending, by doing this, you're effectively amending the zoning code in the B1 district to allow hotels in that district as a conditional zoning certificate.
Well, we're gonna ask for public input though first, right?
It would,
Conditional, it has to have.
Has to have a public hearing, yes.
yep.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as conditional permitted use. Properly, or do you need to cite the section?
I would, I would, if you're inclined to make a motion in the affirmative, I would move to approve the similar use determination is a conditionally permitted use in the B1 district.
That's
So
right.
moved
He
as
said-
Brian said.
Second that.
In the code of
Second.
1167-02C2.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck to you. I hope it works out.
I guess the next step of that will be schedule. Or do we wait for them to request, or do they? Or if the applicant's ready to move to a public meeting or public hearing?
I'm not even sure that there's any commitment to the property or anything. This was more or less to see if they could even be considered.
We had a problem with the Girl Scouts years ago where they wanted to do something and maybe you had to give them permission to do what they wanted to do with their own land. So I was just wondering, because he owns a lot of stuff like over there, doesn't he? Well, he sold
It
some of
could
the
be,
rest.
Costco owns that too, he owns all that.
I was just wondering, no, don't forget that one.
Is it, when they do schedule, whenever we do schedule that, it would be nice to have some kind of exhibit maybe from
Oh,
there or something
absolutely.
that shows.
Yeah, that
all
makes
the
a lot of
different things going
sense,
on.
where you could see like an overhead view,
Yeah, see where the
looking
driveways
down.
are, where the buildings compared to the full site.
All right, well, like I say, I don't think that's a formal commitment yet. I think that's just, can they even consider it? All right, next on the agenda is the awnings for Charmin Charlie. Is there anybody here?
We thought the board was going to be here for Charmin Charlie's, but Amy, she took off.
Do I have a motion to table?
Motion to table?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Proposed new wall mount sign for, and the reason for that is there's no one here, Jeanette. All right. Proposed new wall mount sign for Capital Tire.
Table this one.
Yes. The awnings.
Make a motion to table.
No.
Oh. Oh, there he is. I thought you
I'm
said he
here, I
wasn't here.
promise.
No, the one, Charmin Charlie.
How funny is that? Okay, thank you, sir.
Are you done? All right.
About the table.
Well, we're gonna let Brian read his comments first. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report dated December 7th. The applicant is requesting a 3x8 wall sign on their tenant space, 9600 Valley View. I think everybody knows the facility. It's great to see it in, I think, full use at this point, right? Yeah, so that's really good news. You know, the building frontage for this building is enormous. What's requesting is very small. The tenant frontage is 79 feet, so they're allowed almost 160 square feet. And this is 24 square feet, so I see no reason that this can't be approved at this time.
It's really a relatively small sign on that. It's more directional for the truck drivers. The truck drivers, they're not even doing the sign out the monument sign that's there. They just want, when the truck drivers pull in, they know where they're going. That building is
Yeah, I know where it's at.
Yeah, it's huge.
Questions, comments? Just pretty much.
Motion approved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Dan. Thanks for waiting.
Thank you for not
Oh, yeah. I thought he said you weren't here.
Oh, I know, I heard that, almost the same thing.
I know.
And last but not least, sorry, we have discussion regarding the biannual tree growth review.
We'll come up there.
Good. See you, Don.
How much is it gonna cost us?
A lot.
Because the way I feel about it, I'm sick of buying trees. I think everybody should be, people building anything today should be responsible for their own trees, and that's it.
Some of the only part of the infrastructure that makes money about.
That's okay, not ours, because it seems to cost us.
In this report, if you look at the back, it explains maybe some ways that the city might be able to approach this tree problem. So-
Yeah, don't get involved in it.
But I have with us, most of you, this is Tom Rohde. He's an arborist, and he's going to explain. He worked with Alan Seaver,
Yes.
who's with the ODNR, and they made this report, so Tom is here to explain some of the numbers that we have here.
Here you go, Don.
Page number 2 would be the one that we're going to focus on primarily.
How about this guy?
What this is just a breakdown of the trees that we came up with. All we did was an estimate. We didn't do a complete count. If we did a complete count, it's going to be different. Okay. With the estimate, though, that we came up with, I guess what was more disturbing to me than anything was we really only have 4 varieties of trees in our city. You know, and that's not really good for diversity, especially when almost 30% of those trees were ash. We know what's going on right now, Everett ash borer. You know, we have 900 trees in the next year and a half, 2 years that are coming out. We have no choice. They're going to come out. We kind of weigh the cost of, if we inject them, we're actually losing money to treat the trees. So it's in our best interest to remove the trees and replace them. The hybrid elms, those would be pretty good. The honey locusts are pretty good. The other 15% is a pear tree, poor tree. They get 10, 15 years old, they split apart on you. The last 15 trees that Jason, Mark, and I have worked on, 14 of them were pear trees. From the storms that just break apart. They're really not a good tree to have on the streets. If they're up in the yard, that's one thing. We'll let them deal with them. If they're out in the roads, they're just not a really good tree to have. We do need to start looking at more diversity and get away from some of the trees that we have in the city right now. As far as the other 25%, that's your maples, your oaks. We have a lot of maples. We have a lot of oaks, that type of tree. But as it stands right now, not even including the ash trees, we have 150 trees that need to come out right now. They are hazards, and we do need to address that. Okay. The prices are going to be cheap if we do the work that we need to. You're looking $70,000, $80,000.
Well, okay, we are getting into a discussion here for the review. I just am amazed that we have to cut down the tree and put a new tree in because tree lawns aren't conducive to good tree health.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
so
where-
it just like, seems like an oxymoron. You gotta put it in a new tree, but you're putting it in the tree lawn where a new tree might not make it.
And that's where we need to do more of a scientific-based planting than personal taste. If we get the personal taste out of it, and I actually go out to the sites and I do a sample of that site and come up with the best tree for the best place, our city's gonna be a lot better off.
But does that increase the liability for us, the fact that we actually have an arborist making a recommendation? I'm sorry, this is just questions that,
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out how to give you the best answer for it. if we plant the tree and we take care of it, the critical years is 2, 4, 7, 10. Those are the critical years for a tree. The first 2 years, we do have to keep them watered. We do need to do our maintenance just to make sure that they'll grow the way that we would want them to. At that 2-year point, we do our first trimming. What it is, we take and we limit up to where we know where it's going to be at that 15-foot height. We know at that cut, everything below that, at the 4-year mark and the 7-year mark, we're going to take off. So your tree's already going to be at that 15-foot mark, and then everything above it comes into the mature tree burning stages. And if we start out good, we're going to end up good.
And I have no doubt in my mind that you wouldn't do that. I think that's all well and good, but it just seems backwards to me that we take responsibility for removing the tree, which we absolutely have. But then we also assume responsibility to replace the tree. Why?
This is, a lot of this goes back to as far as old as the ordinance are, from the 1960s, early 1960s, and we haven't changed them. We need to look at the whole process and see what we're going to do, because an actual tree we're charging $200, $250, and it actually costs over the years more than $1,500 that we're assuming. So we're absorbing $1,300 of cost, and then when a tree dies, like this year, we finally got an increase in our budget for us to take care of the trees that are already down, and some trees that we're going to be working on, like in the Spring Hill development, Firestone, and a few other streets. It's a lot of money, and then it's all our care. And even to this day, we have like the crow area. The tree goes down on the tree line. We cut it down. We do the stump, and then we put another tree
Who
in.
planted those trees?
City did.
You sure?
On
Because
most
they
of those
didn't,
trees.
they didn't plant any trees by me.
On some of the trees we know, like on the main road,
On Crow,
is the main area that they put the trees in. Now, I've been trying to find records of who did what and when, and it's very difficult when you go like 25 years from now, past, in the past, or 30 years. It's kind of hard to find records who did what and who planted.
but technically, all right, just
The way
for
it sits right
discussion.
now, the way it is right now, we're responsible for those trees, and the trees on tree rows.
All right, technically, this is for discussion, and that's why we're here, to discuss. The owner could have put the tree in.
Yeah, I can tell you over by Ledge Acres and Woodview and Skyland, Rosalie Corn, who used to be a councilwoman, went around, when they built all that, went around and got residents, they all paid for their own trees to go in the front, and that's those Bradford pears, the Cleveland pear that everybody loves, and all the residents bought those themselves. And then now, see, here's an issue, because Tom knows this, because right there in Woodview where I'm at, a storm came in and it got involved with the gas company, the electric company. Just us got knocked out for days, remember that? And then the tree stump is still there that the city never has come back and stumped it out.
That's one of them.
And so here's the issue. The house sold here last year, and so the city, which Dennis Sachs will have to, wrote them up the tree stump, because when the tree went down, the sidewalk needs to be fixed, and the tree stump has to be done, and it's now not the new owner's responsibility, it's the city's responsibility, and I think they put that in the paperwork, I'm not right. Dennis would have to look that up, but they couldn't sell that house because we have that ordinance that protects the seller buyer, and they couldn't sell that house because the city basically did not have time or the manpower to remove the stump and to fix the issues that belong to the city, so they had to let the sale go through.
And we have done it in the past.
And they're still waiting on the stump to be removed.
The city didn't plant that tree.
Well, here, I have the same
Exactly,
issue.
that's what I know.
On Ledge Acres, in the same area,
Mhm.
there's homeowners that are complaining now that their trees need to be trimmed. it'll cost the city $1,800 just to do that one street if we have to absorb that cost. This is why we need to, council and planning commission and everybody have to get together. They have to set an ordinance or a set of rules on how we're gonna handle this now and in the future, because it could be very expensive. You know, we don't have the manpower to take care of all these trees, to trim them. I looked into, like Twinsburg does, and some other surrounding communities, Ashburn doing a daily tree, and there was the other one, I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head, but you're looking at close to $70,000 to $85,000 to do all the trees in the city of Macedonia, you know, on the streets, main roads and on our side streets. I mean, that's a big chunk of change.
I paid to have mine done this year.
Right, yeah,
I paid,
right.
and they're on the street.
Mhm.
I had a tree removed, and I said, while you're at it, I want you to trim those trees.
But
So, you know, we want to take care of the residents,
Mhm.
but for something that is a plant, and we have responsibility from beyond death, beyond the grave. The tree dies, we remove it, fine. But then we replace it, maintain it.
that's presently how they've been operating.
One of the things that we could do though too, and I know nobody wants to hear that they need to pay more money. We have roughly 60% of the community that is worthy of trees, as far as tree lawn. The other 40%, I believe it is just ditches. You're not gonna put a tree in a ditch. If we take those people and do an assessment of 20, 25, 30 cents a foot, then you could sustain your urban forest, because then you'll have money coming in every year. You know, you're looking at, and don't hold me to it, but you're looking at 50, maybe $100 a year per resident of that 60%. You know, that's a good piece of money to come in. Then you know you're gonna have money. So when the tree does die, I can go to the line item, I can pull that money out, I can remove that tree, what's left of it, I can do the stump, and I can put another tree in, and then we start over again.
Yeah, but
That
then
way
we
we're
have,
having-
well, like now, maybe now, because everything's so particular about the line items, because we had this problem this year, which Jim and Tom can tell you, all the money got spent. The residents that built homes paid for 2 trees. It went into the building department in escrow, so when the development got done, a tree could be built, put in, and then if anything happened to that tree, they had money in the escrow to pay for another tree. All the money got spent. Nobody knows where it got spent.
And one of the things that we
Okay,
do.
so that's scary to me. I know now we got a line item,
Yeah,
and
we-
the way
we-
Sylvia has it set
Well, we
up.
goofed up on that too, because, you know, you're looking at 1 or 2 of 10 trees are gonna die. Well, you know, there's $500 when 2 of 10 go. And we didn't have any money to replace it, we didn't set any money aside to replace it.
Well,
See, well, I
Jim,
know what you're saying.
You know, Jim, you had money removed from one of your accounts
Mhm.
just like that. And the same thing, I'm sure, happened to the trees.
Right,
The-
but
the
we
thing
still
we
put
have
the
to
money
work
back. Council had to put a lot of money back
Yeah,
in
but
to pay for all
he
this
had to
missing tree money.
appropriate more money.
We are in a position right now, what was appropriated to start this year really is just, you know, a percentage of what we really need. Because again, we haven't had a really set program for years. It's just like Tom was saying, and like you said, we did a development, we put the trees in, money was spent, and every development that went in should have had its own
Yes.
line item. By itself, its money,
Right.
period, and taken for that development only. We didn't do that.
Right.
We put it all in one fund, one development. We have a development right now that I could, what am I supposed to do? I have the Gardens of Highland. We planted $19,000 worth of trees, they're all dead.
No, I know, I've been through there.
And everybody wants What do? You tell the people, we give them their money back?
That's why I think it should be a healthy discussion that coming forward, we need to do something. Council needs to change the ordinance.
Well,
We need
the
to do
council
something.
holds pocketbook
Right.
strings,
Right.
and this is, it's almost like you want the city to come out and cut your grass on the tree lawn? I mean, you see where I'm going
Yeah,
with
we
this?
need to
Grass
figure out what
and
to do, though.
trees are things of nature that grow, and I can see getting rid of something that's dead on the tree lawn, which is within our property.
be a hazard.
But replacing it is where the problem comes in, because now what you've done is you planted a new problem. That's gonna be a problem somewhere in the future.
Years down the
It
road.
may not even be disease, it could be a storm. It could be all kinds of
It
things,
could be all
right?
kinds of different things.
Okay, so as a discussion, just a discussion on this, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Right.
That, I don't know, how do you guys feel? I'm doing most of the talking here. Kevin and
I
Rita.
have a page here, page 20 in your booklet, gives you some ideas what we might need to do in this community. Some communities, they plant the trees, they give them a start, and after that, they wash their hands.
Yeah,
It's
I
no
agree with
longer our
you.
responsibility. It's the responsibility of the homeowner. Where I live, I take care of my own trees.
Right.
I trim them, I clean it, I mulch it, I do all the work I'm supposed to do, okay?
Mhm.
We don't have that here. Right now,
Right.
residents are expecting you
Am I allowed to
to cut
break
their
my
tree.
book?
Okay. They expect you to take care of their trees for them, especially if it's on the tree line.
No.
They feel it's our responsibility. I get calls all the time. You know, I have a tree it's busted, the limb came off. Come and take care of it. Am I right?
Well, I don't even know how the hell they cut their front grass, because the tree
limbs are so
limbs
low.
are so low, I couldn't get under there.
No.
I don't know how those people do it,
Well,
but
they're-
they won't cut the branch.
And I can't even begin to tell you how many.
I don't think they know
trucks-
how. A lot of people don't know how to really prune a tree. You really, if you don't know how,
I prune my trees
you can really mess up
all
a
the
tree.
time,
Well,
and I know nothing.
On that
Not like
page,
he does.
Right.
page 20 though, gives you 3 options that you could possibly look at.
Okay, I
That the
will.
city could look at. Maybe this is something up for discussion with council.
Right?
Well-
To figure how they want to do their ordinance.
When you say in here, each homeowner is assessed for tree care, I'll tell you what. In a lot of communities, not only is it trees, but it's also the streets that they're assessed for.
This estimate, one of the
Sidewalk.
estimates, yeah, because it is costly. Well, this one estimate is based on 20 to 25 cents a foot. And if you got 100 feet, you're looking at $2 a month. I'm sorry, yeah, $2 per month, probably about $25 a year for a homeowner with a 100-foot lot. Not a lot of money, but it can accumulate and help us pay for things. If their tree lasts for 10 years, 15 years, that's accumulated money in the account, and we could take care of things.
Well, a normal $200,000 house right now gives $200 a year, and we're supposed to take care of the trees.
Yeah, right, we're losing money.
Yes,
It's a
we're losing money.
We're losing money, and because it's really not enough, you have to agree, and it's really not enough money.
That is where, if we did that assessment, like Jimmy said, 20, 25 cents a foot, that's really nothing. And you're not gonna charge the people that aren't benefiting from that.
Well, that's an option, because you can always say, I don't want a tree, period.
Yeah, well, one of the
Yeah.
problems with.
Okay, I cut those trees down, my tree lawn.
Can you cut them down?
Cut 'em
Yeah.
down and-
Well, let's put them this way.
Well,
You don't have to worry
No,
about
it's
that.
city
Actually, no, you
property.
can't.
What's that?
No, you can't.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
We do have an ordinance.
We do.
That says that you are not to touch a tree.
Yeah, so. I
And
mean,
it's
if
on the
it's
tree
city-
line, they're talking the tree line, not
Right,
your,
that's, I guess when you say people are calling asking, hey, come take the bridge down, you're supposed to, right?
that's,
That's
at
your- it
the
is
way
the
it
city's
stands right
responsibility.
now, the way we do things,
Yeah.
yes. They call me, they say, I have this problem, like ledge acres, where you
Right, so,
live.
so like
They
they
want their
planted them on
trees
city
trimmed.
land. They planted those trees on city property.
Property, but yet now, my department is getting the call that we have to take care of it. We have to go trim all those trees for them. And when you walk down Ledge Acres, there's some trees literally, if you stand up straight, my wife might be able to get through because she's only 4 foot away.
Right.
She'll walk straight through, but me, I'll hit my head. But they have to be trimmed, but they want us to do it. The homeowner does not want to do it. They're looking at service. You guys have to do it. So I did get a price from them. Just that one street was $1,860.
So when we started doing a lot of this, all right, was 10 years ago? All right, longer than that. In 10 years, we grew 25%. Has your workforce grown 25%?
No.
It's
not at
shrunk.
all. It's shrunk, actually. It's
So
less.
you have this, how am I gonna do this?
This is where we're at right now. And we have other things that are gonna be coming up, which Reed is aware of, and you are aware of, with some of our developments. But the tree thing here, we need to come up with a plan where we have to make up our minds what we're gonna do. You're gonna plant the tree, are we gonna take care of it? Or can we just provide a tree, we plant it, then we wash our hands of it, and we walk away.
Now does planning come up with that decision and then it goes to council
Well,
for a vote?
We
Well,
need,
the
How does that
planning
work?
would make a recommendation, all right?
Right.
And that goes to council, but that doesn't mean council has to do what planning
Right,
recommends.
okay,
Yeah.
but still, I mean, I think we should all really
but
like,
it,
Yeah, I think
Like
part
take-
of the issue though is, you know, if they're on the tree lawn, I like the idea of like the city putting the trees in, being responsible for that, and then washing their hands of that.
Uh-huh.
But then they're also salting the streets all winter long, and that salt tends to not do well for the trees. So then what do you do about that?
there are some, like, in Gardens of Highland as an example, those trees never should have been put on that tree line. It's only 2 feet wide, 3 feet wide. You can't put a tree on it. They never should have been there.
Right.
You know, that was quite a bit of money that was actually wasted.
Mhm.
Now, on some of these, like in Canyon Woods, which is a new development, those tree lawns are huge. So by the time we plant the tree, it's literally 8 feet off the road. It's the chances of the salt, unless my driver has got his knobs too high, it should never go that far. It should stay up to the curb. But when you have, so that shouldn't be an issue, really. You know, I like the idea of, okay, let's put in the tree, that's a cost. We put in the tree, but then we wash our hands of it. That's the initial cost. Or you just leave it where the resident plants his own tree and you
then-
take care of
and
it.
then like Bob said, Bob, your comment, I've learned that from this tree stuff, from Tom and other people, you should never plant a young tree, especially close to the road, in the fall, because the ice, I mean, the salt will kill it.
Sure.
So you want to do it in the spring, and hopefully it's a tree that's kind of,
Actually, I'd rather, if I can get away with it, put trees in the fall, because trees are dormant. They're asleep, and the spring is when they're popping out. I'm a little concerned about putting trees in the springtime because of the salt.
right,
We know how Ohio is with winters. We don't know if our winter's gonna end up in May, you know. I don't want you guys pounding a tree that's trying to bud and leaf with salt.
yeah, every tree
That's
guy
gonna be
says something
detrimental.
different though, but we've had to look at that, because we're putting in these trees. Let's use Shepherd Hills Boulevard as an example.
Yeah,
All them
that's
trees
another-
went in, almost all of them died.
Let's
That's
do
another
this,
issue I have.
all right? What you're looking for, according to the agenda, is,
Like I lost mine.
is proposing a master street plan to be reviewed by the planning commission. I'd like to have a motion to table this so we can look at this.
Right.
All
Yeah.
right.
It's pretty informative.
Well,
I got to read this and it is very informative.
it's beautiful. This looks like it's got
Very
everything in
nice,
it.
Tom.
I'd like to
Tom
read
and
this.
Tom and Alan did a beautiful job.
Right,
Thank you
but
very much.
we need to go a step at a time. We haven't even looked at this. We're talking in generalities. So do I have a motion to table?
Somewhere in there for my benefit and whoever goes, well, I would like to see what's in writing. What is the rules and regulations? What,
Okay, I'll bring the
There you
ordinance.
go.
I could,
I don't know.
if I could get your email address, I can email you our.
Why don't you
Just
just
give it
give
to
it to
Janelle.
Or
Janelle?
give it to Janelle.
Yeah.
Right.
She'll
Yeah.
get
I'll
it
do
to
all the
everybody.
other- Is it all in one,
Because from 66 and 67, that's it.
18 or 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to go along with it.
Sure.
Josephine can see if there's any other ordinances since
prior
then
to
that
that.
are prior. We'll pull them all,
I
okay?
think when we pulled it, that was 66.
Anything else?
The only other thing I'd like to see is, do you do other cities as well? Or do you
No, I do
just,
not.
just Macedonia?
I
is-
did come from another city, yes.
Okay.
I came from Richfield.
I guess, Jimmy, what I'd like to see is what some of the other cities
What we
have
can
done with their
do-
programs.
And that's one of the problems with, if we plant the tree and turn it over to the resident, they're not gonna take care of it. If we take them out and don't replant, we're gonna end up with, as much as I hate to say it, Lorraine. You know, look at the shape that they're in right now.
Yeah, but-
Cleveland.
but-
You know, I know they're bigger cities than we are.
You gotta remember this, we have not raised the real estate tax levy since 1962.
So most of even that ordinance for the trees is from like mid to late 60s.
So in 1962, what was good and what was put in an ordinance, and then what you get from homeowners today as their input to the functions the city performs as far as real estate tax, totally different.
Look how many houses had tree lawns in 1967 in the city.
Perfect.
How many?
They didn't have
Well,
sidewalks.
Right, so how
Yeah, I
many
mean,
have tree lawns?
they did most of your developments with the sidewalks now.
Right.
We put into the 80s.
And then
That's
like
fair.
he can attest to this, right now, we're getting calls, council gets calls, you have to go out to the residents' houses, their yards are caving in.
Mhm.
Literally caving in.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's all,
sinkholes.
that has
I
to
mean,
do with our
it's
stormwater,
just-
our storm sewers. There's a lot of them.
There's a
And
lot
the
of-
age of the
We
development
could
is-
go on and on
We
and
can
on.
go on forever.
All right, but do I have a motion to table until
What I
the
can
next
do
meeting?
is, I can, I'm in collaboration,
Hmm?
and I could call those cities and ask their arborists to give us, if they have any type of
Excellent.
report or ideas
Hmm?
that they may have, or what they do. And then we can say, I'll give it to Tom, and Tom can look them over and see what we can do.
I have a question. On the cities that have these signs where they are a tree city,
Yes.
is there some kind of a standard or guideline that they have acquired that status as a tree city?
Yes, you have to, you have to pay $2 per capita just for your forestry program. Okay. The most of that, that's fairly easy to get to, but you have to account for trees pruned, trees removed, Arbor Day. There's other things that are involved with that, administration, your leaf program. With your leaf program, you could pull 25% for your total. The most of it's tree work, though.
So all those cities that have that status then must have some kind of a program in place in
Yes.
order to maintain all that.
Yes.
Whether
And
they're
that's
buying
it.
trees in the residence or pruning and maintenance of those.
Cost
There's a motion on the table.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Okay.
then we'll look this over and get you stuff.
Jim, when you're talking to cities and you're asking what
Wait,
their,
don't leave
what
yet.
their program is, ask if they've ever changed. You know,
question.
they like us,
Five
taking
thirty,
care of everything.
Yeah.
How did they,
2 hours after.
how did they transition that? Did they just?
The mayor.
Is there gonna be grandfather, oh geez.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those kids are probably up at 6.
Are you stuck
Oh, that's
maintaining tree work and you cut off maintenance of someone's
And what
tree?
isn't fair either, we can't charge everybody X amount of dollars per month, because a lot of them, all the ditched homes. ditched
Don't have
areas,
it.
They don't
can't
have
be
trees.
charged.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying, yeah, you have to
Like
figure out.
like this explains to, and when everybody, I suggest that you do read this, because it's very important.
When you pass an ordinance and you say, okay, well, plant your tree, now it's your responsibility, then the building department is really gonna be an extra person just to.
Exactly, I mean, it's just a snowball.
No, they're only responsible for the houses.
If we're responsible for everything, and you make us responsible for stormwater and all these other issues coming up, then you have to make your department big
Bigger.
enough and strong enough to do those things. We can do them, but You need the people, you need the equipment.
You know what, this planning commission does never ask any of the developers about trees on a lawn, do we?
Used to.
Do we?
On the residential developments that I've been involved in,
We
we've
have
asked. Mhm.
trees.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We tell them
they have
put
to
'em
pay
on.
for 2 trees.
Yeah, I believe your ordinance requires a certain amount of money be escrowed.
Per lot, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I know, I read
That's
them
not the
all the way
peace
through.
sign.
Now, we haven't seen a lot of
Two
residential
trees.
development, though.
Okay, so.
One goes in
for
and
a
the other
while.
one's for when it dies, the other one's for.
Well, we have some, yeah.
We
But
got
then they
some-
both die, then you don't have
Okay.
any.
Thank
Then,
you,
we
good
gotta
job,
wait.
thank you. Wait, before you go, you have a motion to approve the 2015 planning schedule.
That was a list, remember she gave us a list of everything, did you guys see it? Make a motion that we approve it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay.
Bye, everybody have a nice Christmas.
All right, see you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Be good, don't do anything I went through.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, I have that.
So now,